Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the hearing, and thanks to you for the tone and the collegial way that we've been able to work through some very difficult issues. Secretary Mayorkas, it's very nice to see you again, and thank you for your constant willingness to talk with me on all of these important issues, and all of us, really. Before we begin our discussion on FY23, Mr. Chairman, may I quickly say thank you to you for your work and partnership in getting this FY22 bill done, and I appreciate you working with me, and I appreciate the cooperation that we found to be able to find our way to what I thought was a good compromise. While we have much to talk about regarding the broad scope of the Department of Homeland Security, from cyber to disaster response to transportation security, discussions these days are rightly dominated by the crisis at the southern border. Last year at this time, there were those who said the numbers at the southern border were merely a seasonal surge. But the border has only continued to, the numbers have only continued to get worse. Since last year's hearing, we've broken records each month, and not just month to month, but compared to previous years and over a period of decades. Recently, we saw nearly 10,000 illegal border crossings in one day. Each crossing lines the pockets of some ruthless cartel that are poisoning our country and my state of West Virginia with drugs like fentanyl. They're using the money for that. To be fair and to your credit, we have noticed occasional efforts at real border enforcement and deterrence, and those efforts have proved fruitful when applied. But unfortunately, they've been kind of far and few between, in my opinion, and the challenges are only growing more dire. Still, despite the backdrop of an ongoing border crisis, we were able to come together last year to pass a full appropriations bill. That included 11% increase for DHS, including key border security measures such as an increased Border Patrol hiring, doubling the amount for border security technology, and maintaining funds to provide for physical barriers on our southern border. Now we have your request for FY23 in front of us. I appreciate the administration is acknowledging the need for more Border Patrol agents, as well as a small nod to the need for more ICE law enforcement agents to deal with ever-growing non-detained docket. However, as a whole, the budget seems to focus more on climate change and a vague equity agenda while making the current border crisis worse. To name just an example, this budget asks for 9,000 fewer ICE beds. I will be asking you about this, I'm sure you know, cutting over 1/4 of your average daily capacity, and a large overall cut for enforcement and removal operations. Time and again, this administration and your department have told courts around the country that you can't properly follow the law's detention requirements because of limited resources provided to you by Congress, and yet you are here asking us for a huge decrease in ICE capacity. Last year in FY21, the department did a record-sized reprogramming, which flew in the face of certain congressional priorities and took money from throughout the entire department to plug holes created by the immigration surge. The 11% increase in FY22 was an opportunity to get this problem under control, but once again, it looks like there's funds that are going different places and we're not solving the problem. Mr. Secretary, you have said you will seek to cover additional costs through transfers and reprogramming. While I appreciate that you believe absorbing these costs within your budget is fiscally responsible, I'm concerned that transfers and reprogramming necessary to deal with the size of the crisis we're seeing at the border would stretch the limits of the other responsibilities at the department. We know that will be especially true if Title 42 is lifted. The department must be transparent about its use of funds and its burn rate so that we can carefully monitor this issue. The administration failures at the border threaten the work of the rest of the department. An aggressive use of transfer and reprogramming authority can harm the department's wide-ranging and so very important priorities. The work of the Coast Guard, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, and the Secret Service, the TSA, FEMA, and other components and subcomponents are too important to be rated to cover for the administration's failure at the border. For these and other reasons, I'm glad we're having this meeting to dig further into these issues. I look forward to working with you, Secretary Mayorkas, and my colleagues on the committee as we monitor the department's finance for FY22 and also look to this next year's appropriations for FY 2023. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here.